Well, hello again, everyone. It's Nick Michalak and the stupendous Steve Frazier.
Hey, hey!
And we are concluding our talk about the films of the Pet Sematary mythos.
Oh, God, don't say series.
I was trying to avoid that, yes.
Oh, God.
We're talking about the new one that came out in 2019. So, guys, you get your subtitles turned on if you have your own copy of it. Get your timestamp up to 0, and we'll sync up with a countdown and get going. So, in 3, 2, 1, play.
Much like in 2009 when I heard that they were remaking A Nightmare on Elm Street,
Oh, God.
I said, I'm 100% against it. I refuse, I'm out, I'm not touching it, whatever.
Yeah.
Then I said, you know what? I'm going to embrace it. I said, despite the fact that it may be my favorite movie of all time, I'm going to pretend, I'm going to set that aside, I'm going to put it on a pedestal, and I'm going to say, I'm going to look at this in a vacuum and entertain me. Tell me a story. Needless to say, I was disappointed.
God damn it. I still remember us having conversations on Facebook at that opening weekend.
10 years ago.
God damn it.
So, a similar situation happened with this. Nightmare on Elm Street, as much as I love it, and it being one of my favorite movies ever, if not my favorite.
Sure.
Pet Sematary, I think, is one of the best horror movies ever made.
Yeah.
And so, when you really think about it, like, the top ones really shouldn't be remade. I hate remakes. I hate remakes so bad.
Because in so many cases, there's only one place to go, and that's down.
Right. You have two choices. You can either, well, I guess you have three choices. You can be better than, you can be less than, or you can be different than.
Lateral move.
Right.
Whatnot.
And I knew that it was not going to be better than. And I said, well, let's just see what happens. We got an opening here, kind of like The Strangers, where it's like, show me the aftermath.
Yeah.
Which, already, this one has a better feel to it than part 2, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we've kind of seen some destruction, and you've created a sense of dread. Like, no matter what happens between now and the end, we know that it's going to end up there, so some shit's going to hit the fan.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of scary.
Yeah.
I like that technique.
Foreboding. Ominousness.
Jason Clarke here, I don't know what you necessarily know him from, but I don't know, he was on a one season of a TV show that was about, like, Chicago cops.
Chicago Code, yeah.
Chicago Code.
Had a few actors who got bit parts on that.
And
I fought to keep that on the air, and of course it was on Fox, so it got canceled.
Yeah. Here we're back in Ludlow.
Yes.
The Chicago Code was actually the first place I think I'd ever actually known this guy.
Yeah.
And he's gone on to have a bunch of other roles.
Yeah, he was in one of those Planet of the Apes movies.
Yeah.
The second one, so. And a few roles better or worse here and there, as everyone does.
Screenplay by Jeff Bueller, whoever that is.
It's not Stephen King.
Directed by 2 people?
I didn't know that.
That's interesting.
That's rare, because DJ is very, very particular about that sort of thing. They don't really like crediting two directors.
I mean, unless it's like the Coen brothers, or whatever.
They don't have a Wikipedia listing. I don't think so. They have no listing on Wikipedia. Let's try elsewhere.
So, we kind of have the setup here. Great. I like that. That was well done.
Yes.
we've got the family moving in. I try to look at it as, let's pretend the other one doesn't exist.
Right. Let's just clear their minds, and just because it was so obviously for you too. But when I first watched this, I watched it like a week after watching the original. It's like, okay, I'm very fresh on the story beats, so it's like, okay, I gotta walk through it a little bit, give it a little bit of time to see where it wants to go with them.
I think this house in the woods feels more secluded.
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't necessarily feel like a neighborhood,
Yeah.
It's almost like cabin in the woods kind of feel to it.
Okay.
So
Or nestled back.
Yeah, I feel like there's less sense of community
Yeah.
already.
Yeah.
Not that I want to just spend the entire time comparing and contrasting.
Right.
But that's kind of what you do.
Right.
We've remade the story, right? So it's got the same.
And because the original film is very, very close to the original book, so okay, you're not just remaking, you're also readapting it from the same source material. So there you have to kind of see how they altered certain aspects to make a slightly different perspective on the same stuff.
Right. Which is why it's so dumb to remake stuff, because it's not an original idea.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, why do you need to remake it? Unless it's completely different. You know what I mean? They've done A Star Is Born 4 different times, but and each one has been its own version of the same skeleton.
Right.
But
sometimes the movie star, sometimes a country singer, sometimes this, sometimes that.
Right. But these horror remakes, it's clearly all about money. Now, I do like this.
Also, because obviously, this came off the hot on the heels of almost $1 billion from the first It movie.
Sure.
So we have up some king properties that we can do stuff with that were successful before.
This is kind of creepy and scary. They got the wheelbarrow and everyone's wearing a mask and that's creepy.
Yeah.
There's all. I feel like, especially compared to the second film, there's.
This is an actual horror film.
There's ambiance here, and there's.
Just from the photography style alone, you feel a lot more like this is a serious movie. It's not going for cheap stuff here and there. It's not being. You don't perceive it like it's going to be getting campy, over the top, silly stuff. It's going for a straight horror vibe.
And I get, the kid wants to go down, and that's kind of the same basic character structure. She was always the curious one. She asked a lot of questions. It's the age range, right?
Right.
What else was this lady in? Do you know?
I don't even know who she is. She doesn't look familiar.
And I do think it's interesting.
Amy Seimetz.
Doesn't sound familiar. Mm-hmm. I do think it's interesting in this version that Ellie discovers the Pet Sematary on her own.
Yeah.
I do think that discredits the Jud character.
Right.
Not discredits, but it lessens the character to some degree, because
go on.
I was going to say there's something about him kind of helping the family acclimate to the new community, and B, having a personal relationship with this property.
Yeah.
That he can explain it.
Right. he leads them down the path a little bit and makes a conscious choice to introduce them to this whole thing.
Right. Leads them down the path is a good...
Yeah.
And, like, why is she trying to go behind the deadfall right now? Like, what would make her...
Just curious exploration for a kid. I don't know. That's the best I can give you. Yeah, with the mother, the only thing I ever saw her in when she was an Alien Covenant.
Oh,
But
which I did not see.
probably better off. I didn't care for it very much. I mean, John Lithgow is a pretty damn good actor. He's very versatile.
Yeah, he's okay for me.
Just the fact, I mean, he can do the drama, he can do the comedy, he can do a whole bunch of different things.
I
So
definitely prefer his
can-
drama.
Yeah.
Judson? And, why would she know that? So, my biggest complaint
Mm-hmm.
already,
Yes.
number one, is that John Lithgow does not have a Maine accent.
No, he did not.
Now, I would be okay with it if they hadn't set it up to be in Ludlow, Maine.
Okay.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Like, they went out of their way to show the town.
Yes.
You know, if this was in
Right.
upstate New York or,
Yeah.
you know, wherever. Could be in Wisconsin.
Sure.
And I'd be fine with
Sure.
no accent. And now, I will say, I've been to Maine. Not everybody speaks with an accent.
Sure.
However,
Because also they say, instead of Chicago this time, they've come from Boston, but they don't have Boston accents. But
which a lot of people in Boston don't have the accent
Right.
either. But, people that have lived in Maine their entire
Yeah.
life,
Yeah.
most of those people have
They're
the accent.
ingrained in
yeah.
that. Yeah.
I mean, he sounds like John Lithgow.
Right. And as watching this again, it was like, okay, Lithgow already looks like he's freaked the shit out from the first moment of the film.
Yeah, he looks.
Yeah.
He looks scared or something here.
Right. It's very early on, but I just feel like there doesn't end up being a progression of the character. He's kind of haunted and broken from the beginning of the movie.
It's a good looking cat.
Yeah.
So, I really do feel like this is the first distinct difference. Is that Ellie discovers the pet cemetery.
Yes.
Now, granted, she meets Jud there and he kind of explains to her what it is.
Yeah.
But you're right. There's not the choice for him to...
Introduce this into their lives.
Right, yeah. I do like this dynamic where the mom is slightly religious and the
Yeah.
dad is kind of more scientific about
Yeah.
things. Well, now here is another distinct difference. Why would, I don't know, why would Ellie even know about that and bring
Yeah.
it up? Like, to me, that doesn't sound like natural
Something
conversation.
that it doesn't seem so much like something she would discuss.
Right.
Rachel would discuss.
They're really kicking it off early here with the Zelda.
Yeah. There's just a tease here. I don't think there's not a. a reveal of it until later. Just a tease here.
And that's fine.
Just get you a little crawling here.
I mean, so again, they've chosen to have the Zelda imagery be very similar to the original. Like the same dress, the same kind of spinal malfunctions,
or,
right. And I don't know if teasing it this early has the same impact. Maybe.
Yeah.
It's hard to say because Zelda 89 is the scariest thing that's ever been put on film. And so I don't know. When we get later on, we can discuss.
We'll see how the structure,
the differences between the two Zelda storylines. Is also, I feel like, in some ways, well, we'll get there.
Yeah.
The Chicago Code was a great show, by the way. It only lasted one season.
But Jennifer Beals, Delroy Lindo. It was more than just a procedural cop show. It had ongoing storylines that was really goddamn good. It's only like 12 episodes.
Yeah.
Just a real goddamn shame. Again, that's why I stopped watching stuff on Fox. Just cancel everything I like. Yeah. Pascal thing, it tonally is handled much differently in this one.
Yep.
It's more overt horror. There's not that kind of... They choose not to go the same route in the tonal range, where it's a little bit more... In the original version was more kind of... had that kind of tongue-in-cheek kind of quirkiness to it. This one's much more terrifying.
Well, I mean, the makeup is outstanding. He's got his brain hanging out there.
Fucking A.
Like
it's haunting.
It is. This is scary.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that Victor Pascal 89 wasn't scary because but they didn't go into this detail. Like you can tell they kind of clipped it a little bit. Like I feel like they filmed a little more and they trimmed it.
Mm-hmm.
Because here, I mean, they're going out of their way to show you how injured he is.
Yeah.
There's a lot more effort into trying to save him.
Yeah.
Which, if you want to try to set up that...
Heightens the drama.
That I was unable to save him mentality. Maybe that's having the scene play out longer is better for that.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll give a nod in the 2019 column for that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm scared by this.
It gives a little chill, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
like
it's a little.
Yeah, it's yeah. I just think some of the problems with this one are, I guess it's kind of the same as the Elm Street deal that we will refuse to cover.
Yes.
Where it was like, we're just going to take some of the same beats, but not have any like heart and like meaning behind it. And
yeah, because I mean, so much in the original one, Fred Gwynn was very much the heart of that movie. And as you change Crandall's presentation of this film, that alters the core of the movie.
Right. Like, his impact is... It's almost like he's not even in it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
it took the soul of the character out. I mean, obviously we've only had a scene with Lithgow, but that scene sets the tone for how he's portrayed throughout the entire film. There's not a real variation on how his role affects the story. Let's
think back for a minute. The very first scene that Fred Gwynn has in 89 is him saving Gage out of the road.
Yeah. And very grandpa-like. Very warm.
Well, it's warm and it's but it's also a like a savior
Yeah.
kind of presentation.
Yeah.
You know,
This
I mean,
guy-
it
makes you feel this guy's going to look out for him in this new neighborhood they have, the new community they have.
right. I mean, and it's a slight, you know, foreshadowing.
Sure. Yeah.
But, you know, 5 minutes into the movie, you don't know that.
Right.
If you haven't read the book.
Right.
Even the house is not as welcoming, I feel.
Hmm.
Like, this house doesn't have character to me.
Hmm.
But maybe that's just my personal
Yeah.
whatever. God, I really remember there being something about this relationship that I did not care for.
Didn't spark.
And we're just gonna have to let it play out.
Yeah. I don't want to just start talking about things before things start happening.
Right. Because now I have not seen this since I sat in the movie theater and
Yeah.
watched it.
Yeah, for me it's been about 10 months or so. Because I really sat down and watched it thoroughly. I watched it last night, but in kind of a passive way.
Maybe what happened to her? I mean, I guess that's
Mm.
why does she like him so much?
I don't know.
I mean, he scared the shit out of her in the pet cemetery.
Yeah.
And then I guess he pulled the little
A little thorn out, or whatever the case
Yeah.
was. But, yeah,
and I guess this is a natural progression. You have the neighbor over for dinner.
yeah.
The actor here that's playing Gage is cute.
Yeah.
You don't know where your own property line is? Like, that's weird to me.
Yeah, it's another thing where it feels like, okay, we're just trying to remix some dialogue that they had in the original versions, where they do mention the property line, stuff like that, but it just feels like they're trying to get to it from a different angle.
This one goes into some things from the book that the 89 does not, regarding
Okay.
kind of the supernatural, like the Indian burial ground,
Okay.
like the well, I forget what the words,
The lore or
yeah, the
something?
lore of the. But to me, that was always kind of secondary, and everything
Yeah.
that was important,
Yeah.
you know, King put into his screenplay.
Right. Again, don't need everything explained.
Right.
Stuff like this, a little bit of mystique goes a long way.
So, okay, so Pascal, all right. I mean, this is set up very much like a dream, which is, you know,
Yeah, it works.
it
It
works.
functions.
I mean, this is a cool visual.
Yeah.
It's weird, but it's cool.
Yeah. The digital compositing in this thing's not terribly hot, though. We'll get into it more later.
Now I'm trying to remember. Is this occurring earlier than it did in the It has to be.
It feels like it.
Because why would he take him here? At this point, Lewis has never been to the pet cemetery.
No, he hasn't. He's barely had it discussed at all. Yeah, it does feel like they're fast-tracking certain elements to get them more up front in the story.
So, Victor Pascow is actually the one to introduce
Right.
the place beyond.
Right.
Like,
because as this film has unfolded to this point, we really haven't gotten a whole lot of sense about the cemetery area. We haven't weaved the story yet. We haven't really gotten mythos into people's heads.
yeah, I mean,
We haven't gotten an undercurrent of anything terribly much yet.
I just think it's odd because he has no point of reference
Right.
at all for
Right.
that. Great porch. And again, Crandall, I mean, I guess they had him over for dinner, so I guess it's...
Right. Yeah, again, it does feel a little fast-tracked.
Yeah, everything feels...
We're trying to get to the plot points a lot faster in this version, I think. Because
And so at this point, we've also not talked about the trucks.
yeah, that we've seen it once.
He's...
And also something they cut out here because they had before I forget the character's name, the one that hangs herself.
Oh,
That's not in this.
Missy Dandridge.
She's not in this one at all.
Correct. Right, it was during the... it was because Missy Dandridge died that Ellie had the conversation about death.
Yeah,
and,
so yeah.
You know, Crandall in '89 talks about the trucks and the road, and really kind of sets up how the road is a character in the story.
All right.
And I guess you wouldn't need it because you've already shown a truck, and he just referenced, you know, oh, it's those trucks.
Right.
Okay, fine. I mean, that's, I feel like, maybe splitting hairs, but...
Right. But there's something said by maintaining a background presence of that going on. As the forefront story continues going on, have that as a presence in the background to have it continually in people's minds of what's happening physically.
So now we're going to get more into the Zelda story here.
Yeah. Ew.
Yeah. I don't know how many houses had dumbwaiters back then.
Well, yeah, this probably would have been mid to late 80s at this point. What they're flashing back to.
Right. I mean, dumbwaiters are cool, but I just don't know how practical they were in homes.
Well, even then, she's saying right now, it's like the dumbwaiter didn't always work.
And so we've set up this story where Zelda has fallen down the dumbwaiter. the whole kind of premise was that she couldn't get out of the bed.
Right.
You know what I mean?
This is not as effective an idea.
Right. I mean, I kind of like... I think there's aspects of this that are, you know... The parents left her alone
Right.
to take care of her. But in this version of it, Zelda, like, initiates the action
Right.
that causes her own
Right.
peril. And so, to me, that's not as effective
Right.
as...
She goes in there, Zelda starts choking and everything, and she gets paralyzed and has this doubt of where she chose not to do anything or she felt unable to do something.
Right. Both of which are better than...
I just didn't want to go up there, so I put it in the dumbwaiter and had her take care
Right.
of it herself. It's not as effective.
Right. And I don't know why Rachel is so upset right now.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, they're saying, ever since we moved here, I can't stop thinking about her. Well, what in this movie has taken place that has reminded her of this situation so far?
I don't know.
You know, I mean, aside from the cat dying, but I don't know.
This whole thing started before that, so...
Like the question of death and souls going to heaven or whatever. And again, here, this is set up where Lewis is like leading the team to bury the cat, and at the last minute, Jud was like, okay, follow me.
Rethink it, yeah.
You know, there's not that overarching lore, or you can't have guilt on the back end if there's no conscious decision on the front end to, like, you know, I mean...
That he thought it through and against his better judgment decided on this after a lot of thought, a lot of dwelling on it.
I mean, Fred Gwynn, his Crandall was so torn, you know, because all he wanted was...
Made that little girl happy.
Right. He didn't want this family to suffer.
Right.
And he thought, maybe, just maybe, it would work this time.
Right.
You know? And...
Which becomes a vicious cycle as the film goes on. Every time something worse happens, like, oh, maybe it'll be better this time, then it gets worse and worse and worse.
Right. It's such a brilliant... I mean, it's so simple.
Yeah.
But so brilliant.
Yeah.
And all of that is completely gone in this Jud Crandall.
There's no charm to it. And this whole watch this whole scene was like, there's a lot of digital fog. You see a lot of it's like a sound stage. There's no reality. It doesn't... I mean, I can understand if you want to try and go for a surreal sense, but I don't feel like that's what they need to go for in this thing. It all just feels too soundstagey and green screen stuff as we go along.
I mean, one of the things that King was adamant about was that it had to be filmed
in Maine.
And as it turns out, it was filmed 20 minutes down the road from his house. But, you know, there's a sense of... I thought there was a head back there in the middle. Like, that's weird. There's a sense of realism to it because it is real.
Yeah.
You're right. I mean, this feels like a 70s sci-fi movie on a soundstage.
Yeah.
You know, the guys in the Wookiee costume or the alien costume's going to come out. The spaceship's going to land. And
digital matte paintings and everything. It's like, it doesn't... as you say, it feels less than by a wide margin. He just doesn't have... Well, I'm just trying to find the right thing that almost popped in my head. He doesn't have that sense of mythology to him. He doesn't have that soaked in sense of, I've lived through this stuff before. I've lived the history of this town.
He's just a guy.
Yeah.
And Jud Crandall is like the heart and soul of the story.
Exactly what I said before.
And when you take away that, you basically sterilize that character.
Right.
You sterilize the whole movie.
Right.
That being said, when we get to the middle and the twist,
yeah,
I believe that's where this one changes for me.
Okay.
And we'll get there in a minute.
Yeah.
But, is this their bedroom or her bedroom? The kid's bedroom. Is this kid's bedroom?
Definitely the kid's bedroom.
And she has a queen bed? There's paw prints everywhere. I don't know. None of the cats that I've ever known have ever been outside cats, but even the ones I've known people that had outside cats, just never the ones that I've either owned or
Sure.
my mom has owned, have been outside. But some people that I know have had outside cats, and they don't leave paw prints when they come inside. Now that's terrifying.
Yeah.
R.I.P. to this cat who did pass away.
Yeah. Well, they had 4 different cats.
Right. But I mean,
one of them did pass about a month and a half after the film was released.
Like, I feel like the main one that they used for a lot of the promotional footage.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I like the look of Church in this one.
I like that because of the style of cat they chose, they can make it look a little bit more kind of
grungy,
frazzled hair and everything. You can make it look more like an alley cat.
Yeah, the 89 Church basically was all about the eyes.
The eyes was what got me. It didn't bother you as much, but it got me and most other people.
So here they're kind of going with a denial. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. It lacks the texture.
Right. I mean,
you can take it in a different direction somehow, but it just feels like they kind of stalled it out without developing a different take on the character.
They just kind of said, "Oh, here are all the plot points that we need to hit."
Right. They stripped it out, but didn't build anything more on top of it.
Yeah. Until we get to the middle and the twist.
Right.
So, I don't know. I'm down for, discoveries and newspaper clippings and articles and... See, and again, he has no reference to the fact that the wife and kids saw that little procession,
Yeah, again, he hasn't even been... Well, no, he has been. Okay, I'm just glossing over things. The film's going by a little fast. Maintaining everything.
And again, I don't know, why is he just now looking at a map for the first time? You just buy a house blind and not know anything about anything? I mean, this is kind of a long hair cat. I've not usually been a fan of long. Ooh, God, I just got a chill. Like, that stung me. I just don't know how receptive a cat would be to a long hair cat, to that kind of brushing when it's all knotted and gross. And trying to give a cat a bath, forget that. I mean, you can do it, but it ain't easy.
You can't wrinkle those suckers down.
You know, dogs just like, oh, eat it up.
Oh,
Give me the hose. They love it.
Them, baby.
They love it.
Yeah.
Cats want nothing to do with it.
Cats like to take care of their own business.
It is kind of interesting that she's afraid now of her own cat. Like, she doesn't...
Yeah.
She wants to disassociate from the cat. I don't know. It's weird. There's something missing. It looks okay.
Yeah.
But if this were the only version, would we like it more?
Well, you still have the novel to go back to compare it. And say, okay, what worked better in the novel than this version?
And again, part of me would say that they didn't know how to adapt the Jud character.
Mm-hmm.
Because this Jud is significantly different than...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And Lewis is kind of like, okay, he'll try researching a few things, but then, okay, I don't come up with much of an answer, so I just kind of start taking things a little bit more kind of matter of fact. It's like, okay, well, the cat's just screwed up because of the accent. There's nothing more to it than that.
Right, like, there's no internal struggle to decide what actually is occurring here.
Right.
Now, I will say that I do like that they're spending a little more time on the cat being different than it was before.
Yeah.
Like, there's a change in the cat.
Yeah.
And
it's more feral.
And, in King's version in '89... they trimmed that to make room for the other story, which, agreed, is the more important story.
Right.
But I don't mind them taking a few minutes to...
But as I said with the original film, the cat's the harbinger. This is the preview what's coming down the line from the bad choices you're going to make.
It's a representation of what the Place Beyond can do, and,
Right.
It plants the seed.
Yeah.
And really, that's all it needs to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have the Timmy Baterman story to explain, really, to go into depth about how it changes you.
Yeah.
And how it changes you with a person.
Mm-hmm.
But he also has his dog story, too.
Uh-huh.
So... And again, that's part of the Jud charm, that he lived it.
Yeah.
Both of those.
Yeah.
So you didn't necessarily need a whole lot of the cat because you had the Jud stories coming later on.
Yeah.
But the cat was enough to plant the seed for, here's what's possible.
Yeah.
And you're right. Lewis hasn't been reacting like anything strange is happening.
Far more is going on here than just a surface level analysis.
Right. And now she's experiencing like some sort of supernatural vision here.
Yeah.
That
really doesn't...
It doesn't jibe with the rest of the...
Right.
The story, because... Like, if the ghost of the dumbwaiter is in here or whatever...
Right.
Like, why? Other than her own personal psychoses.
Right.
Which, in the King story...
None of this happens to, like, the final act where...
Well, it's her reacting to Gage's death.
Right.
First of all.
Right.
That... I mean, nothing in this story so far has triggered Rachel's visions and remembering of Zelda, which just leads me to believe that she's crazy the whole time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, this issue is...
She's hallucinating things for no reason.
Right. So, there's, clearly she needed a doctor long before this movie started.
Right. I mean, maybe if there was sort of thing to add in there where she's taking some kind of medication for certain things, then she starts slipping off it because of whatever reason.
Right. Maybe they moved here to get a fresh start, and now she decides she doesn't need it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah. But the fact that the hallucinations are playing out very vividly as if they are, like, almost a dream sequence, but it's not a dream sequence.
Right.
Physical things are happening in the situation.
But there's no reason for them to be happening to her.
Right.
If anything, they set up at the very beginning that he was susceptible to this sort of thing.
Right.
Where Pascal leads him into the pet cemetery for no reason because he'd never been there. That does not look like the work of a toddler, by the way. There's also
I don't know if they whited out the eyes or something. There's something there.
There's also been very little Gage in this movie.
Oh yeah.
Okay, here we're going to tell the story. Whatever. The Gage character that Miko Hughes played, they spent a decent amount of time gaining the audience's love and affection for his cuteness and his, like you fell in love with the kid almost immediately.
Right.
Whereas this Gage has not even really had a scene.
No.
Other than
hasn't had much of a focus.
The dinner table.
Right.
So here we're getting a little bit more into the supernatural lore.
Mm-hmm.
But still, the fact that he doesn't have an accent just
grinds your gears.
It does so bad. It does. I can't even.
And it's just a choice. It's like, I'm sure Lithgow could have pulled it off if they wanted him to, but they chose not to.
And maybe they were trying to be different then. But I feel like the fact that he, made a point of saying that he's lived here his whole life.
Right.
That it's just that little nuance.
Right.
That adds so much, in my opinion.
And again, the accent adds that sort of
credibility.
Well, and it's that contrast. Like, okay, this guy's from here. You're not from here.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, he could have moved there yesterday, and it's all a ruse,
Right.
The real Jud is buried in the basement.
Inside the house, built around the house.
Yeah. No need to do that here, because this is like, just a whatever house.
There's the tagline.
Now you're going to euthanize the cat? Aw, I'm such a cat person. I'm with you, Lewis. It breaks my heart.
Mm-hmm.
Now this is kind of an interesting idea.
Yeah.
That they would, he, pronouns pal,
Yeah.
would say, you know what? Just go,
Frolic in the wilderness.
yeah, I'm setting you free. It's got such a cute little face.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's terrifying,
Yeah.
but it's also, like, you can tell that there's a real cute cat underneath there.
Yeah.
What an awesome visual this is, right? Like,
I mean, even when they're not doing anything to the eyes of a cat, man, there's something more to that.
and she looks sad because she doesn't have her cat.
Mm-hmm.
But so far, I still don't buy that Jud is, in love with Ellie and treating her like a granddaughter. Like, they haven't set up that relationship quite right.
Yeah. Again, the fact that Jud just doesn't have a charm in this thing. He just feels a little too almost prophet of doom in a certain way. Not like overtly, but just like he has that sort of undercurrent of stuff, like he's already troubled by everything before the film even began.
Right. Fred Gwynn, his character was troubled, but he was still jolly.
Yeah,
and
a lot of humanity to him.
Yeah. Well, that's creepy as fuck. You do?
Yeah.
Now, my next question, I mean, I guess she's been going to school and it's been a long time. I was going to say, where did all these kids come from?
Mm-hmm.
There's this many neighboring people? I don't know, it's weird. This is kind of a slightly different presentation too, in that it's an entire neighborhood gathering all there at once,
right,
as opposed to just the family and
right.
Jud.
Right.
Which, in that version,
right.
makes Jud more, quote-unquote, part of the family.
Right.
As opposed to just the neighbor who happens to be attending the party.
One of the other 12 people you invited in this thing.
So, at this point, I would like to mention, and is this our midpoint? It's past, actually.
Yeah,
it's weird.
Just over that.
At this point, I would like to mention, I hate movie trailers. I try not to watch trailers. I try not to be... I feel like everything is a spoiler.
Yeah.
And, as such, I had no idea, zero, sitting in the movie theater, zero idea that this happened.
Changed. They made this alteration.
Zero idea. And at this point, my jaw is open, I'm holding my breath, and there is new life breathed into this movie.
Yeah.
Because it is now different than the original story.
Right.
So, they've... like, all of the less than can now be expunged.
Right.
Because whatever was before doesn't matter, because at this point, I don't know what's going to happen.
Exactly.
It's a brand new story.
And I like how all of this is handled, like this, the photography of it, how they handle the jackknifing and everything. They don't show you anything that you don't need to see.
Right.
Everything is off screen. You understand the implication. Any image that flashes in your head is going to be more terrifying than anything that he could explicitly show you.
Right. Now, I will say that the Gage 89 with the photographs flashing really, I mean, breaks your heart.
Yeah, that's...
Which is also...
a stroke of artistic brilliance.
Yeah. And at this point, you kind of realize why Gage hadn't been featured.
Right. Because the focus is on a different character for the twist of the story.
Right. So now you actually care that Ellie has died. Like, if Ellie had died in the 89 film, I probably wouldn't have cared as much because, I don't know, it just didn't... She didn't do it for me.
Yeah.
You know. But this is like... This is unbelievable. Mm-hmm. I had not been swerved like this in forever. And so I was legitimately excited sitting here right now, like in the movie theater at this point in the movie.
Like the little look, I think that's the father.
Yeah, that's
Rachel's father.
Yeah,
like
Rachel.
the little look he had there. It's like, it's subtle, it's understated, they don't expand on it later. And again, little looks here.
Okay,
like,
but here we go. Here's again. In the 89, the father wasn't there. He doesn't know what happened that day in the road.
Right.
In this scenario, the father was there and knows that there was nothing that could be done, and there was no fault.
Right.
When you're in Chicago and you hear over the phone that the 2-year-old or 3-year-old got played in the road and got hit by a car, you blame your son-in-law.
Yeah, because you're supposed to protect my grandkids.
Right. In this scenario, he has zero reason to be at odds with Lewis.
Yeah.
Because he was at the fucking party.
Yeah.
He saw it happen.
Yeah. And I do kind of like the look between Jud and Lewis in that scene there, because I think Jud's looking at Lewis like...
Don't even think about it?
Don't even think about it. Yeah. I know what's going through your head right now. Don't go down that path.
If at this point Rachel started having flashbacks of the sister, I would be more comfortable with it. Yeah.
I think it would have a little bit more... It would punch the story up to the next level. If you had the stuff that was a little bit kind of like she would have the breakdown about the whole thing earlier on, and then you have the thought of it in your head, but you haven't seen any of it. Then you start seeing it because she's kind of had her entire emotional state shattered.
And that is her point of reference of death.
Right.
You know, you know, Ellie's point of reference of death in the original film was Missy Dandridge.
Yeah.
And I don't know, she didn't have that here. And so, and again, Rachel didn't have... it's weird.
Yeah.
Like, there's a strange... There's something missing.
Yeah.
And in... it was at this point in the original film... my favorite Christ on his throne line. Where Jud is now drinking himself to death, and that feeling of guilt has washed over him because he knows, you know, I know what you're thinking, and you can't. You can't. Whatever you do, you can't.
Yeah. And it's weird because I watched the original film and then this one about a week later originally.
Yep.
I kept thinking this scene was in the original film where Lewis goes over there and drugs Jud and then goes off to the pet cemetery. I got confused for a long time. I just got this confused because I watched them within a week of each other for the first time, and I just got confused. Like
the drugging?
Right, I was watching the 89 version. It's like, okay, first off, I'm like, does this scene come later on in the film, or like, did I miss this scene earlier in the film? It's like, okay, when I was watching this again, I was like, okay, that's why I kept thinking, because it's in this version. So look.
And again,
my head playing tricks on me.
You're eliminating the Jud character from any sort of
action.
Right. I mean, I get in this version, Lewis feels the need to drug him so that he can't stop him. You know?
Yeah. It doesn't have as much setup for it.
I mean, this is probably his strongest scene.
Oh, yeah. But in the film itself, there's no Timmy Baterman's story, is there?
In this version?
He doesn't sit down and have that chat. They had a newspaper clipping out when he was looking at the websites, but he doesn't tell the tale in the film, does he?
I don't think so.
Because it's weird, because there's a special feature on this disc, which is pretty much like a promotional piece, where they have Lithgow telling the story as like almost like talking to the camera type of thing.
Of Timmy Baterman?
Yes. Which is strange.
Unless it was shot and then cut.
Well, it's shot like he's talking directly to
like a documentary style?
Fourth wall type of thing. It's meant to be a direct-to-the-camera promotional piece. So it's very peculiar that they do that, because, I mean, that's... From my perspective, I think that's kind of like the crux of the whole thing of... That's kind of the tipping point in this story, in a way. It's like... That's Jud's tipping point in the story. That he's like, he breaks down and crying and everything like that, stuff like that, so... That further defines his character and puts the two of them at odds going forward. Jud tells him, absolutely positively, do not go off and do this because this shit happened before, and this is how it ended.
Well, in the original one, he denies it at first.
Right. But
he says, I know what you're thinking.
Right.
Don't do it.
Right.
And then...
But after Gage gets killed, that eventually ends up being the thing, and then Dale Midkiff's character of Lewis, he's already gone by that point, and it doesn't resonate with him because he's too numb to the entire experience.
And I don't think that Clarke here has that same
trauma.
Yeah.
The sense of shock. It's more of a hopelessness in a certain way. It's like, I can't quite pin it down exactly because it's not as well defined here. There's like, it worked before, I can just try it again. It doesn't feel like there's as much emotional numbness to what he's doing.
He's not broken.
Right. He's just... He is grieving. You can tell that, but it's not as pronounced. That's just like, again, right from the funeral, it's just like, I already have my mind set on this, and I don't really have to go through a process because I'm just going to fix it.
Right. And I still don't... Like, again, that guilt theme with Rachel doesn't exist
it's
in this...
the first time I've seen Pascal in like 40 minutes.
Yeah, at least. And he didn't even do anything other than...
Yeah.
And they reversed the role here so that...
Right.
Anyway, the fact that in the OG version, Rachel she felt guilty that she wanted Zelda to die.
Yeah.
And, chose not to, help her, I guess. And then that, the guilt of the dumbwaiter is just not there. So there's no...
Yeah, I mean, they bring it up again in about like 20 minutes or so, but it's not a thread through line, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Something... You can kind of forgive the Rachel, Zelda, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Jud thing that really is just... It changes the whole story.
Right, because again, if you don't have the emotional resonance from Jud, that doesn't kind of reflect off or contrast against Lewis.
I mean, that doesn't mean I wasn't still excited at this point, because you don't, the rules are gone out the window.
Yeah.
All bets are off. We don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
When she comes back, so it's like... It's exciting.
Yeah.
Sadly, it doesn't turn out to be a whole lot of, greatness, but I don't know. It was interesting how I had no knowledge.
Yeah.
And because I go out of my way to avoid spoilers and trailers and whatever. And some people asked me after I saw it, they were like, well, because they know how much I loved it. And I was like, well, I don't want to spoil it. I said, but there's some things that are different. And they're like, oh, like Ellie. And I'm like, wait, how did you know that? And they're like, I don't know, it was in the poster or the and I'm like, why would they ruin that?
Yeah.
I don't know, that's, the promotional materials for the original film are focused on the cat.
Yeah.
Because it's called Pet Sematary.
Yeah.
And so, you're thinking that it's going to be some sort of, vicious animal story.
Yeah.
So that when the kid dies, and that light bulb goes off over the audience's head at the same time that it's going off over Lewis's head, it's like this roller coaster of emotion.
Yeah.
Which, again, with a remake, it's hard to
replicate.
Right. So changing it to make it Ellie is about the best they could do.
Yeah.
But if that's the case, why would you spoil that feeling for everyone in the trailer and the poster?
It seems like a lot of marketing departments today are too insecure. It's like, we got to show you as much stuff in the trailer to drag you away from your Netflix for 2 hours. To come into a theater.
Yeah. God, it just drives me nuts.
Because Jason Blum from Blumhouse Productions pretty much said, oh, that's what we have to do now. We have to kind of throw a bunch... Because people were saying they're for Invisible Man, I think it was that, or one of his other films recently, that we had to throw so much stuff in the trailer to kind of show you half the film, 3/4 of the film, to drag you away from your Amazon Prime subscription and everything like that. That kind of spoils the experience of the movie. I mean, you can market a movie very, very effectively without throwing 80% of the film into the trailer.
Agreed. I went and saw Invisible Man in the theater. Yeah. I left my Prime and my Netflix to go see it. But I also I haven't watched the trailer. I had just seen, I
saw the trailer once or twice, and I still really enjoyed the film.
I mean, how many times have you watched a trailer in the theater and then turned to the person next to you and said, well, we don't have to go see that now.
Exactly.
Because you just saw the whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like if I had known that it was Ellie going in, I don't know if I would have even gone.
Yeah. It's like, oh, why bother now?
That feeling of shock and, twist, like swerve, like, that is so hard to gain. Like, it's so hard to get that feeling in a theater anymore because trailers are so, or promotional materials just show you everything. That I really was satisfied. Like, that, I don't know if I've had that feeling since. But Invisible Man was actually a lot of twists and turns toward the end there, and I was enjoying that. Like, what is this cubby? So that's creepy. And now we get into this section of the movie, which is supposed to be completely, new and fresh, and tell me it's a clean slate. Tell me a brand new story. For me,
but then eventually veers back into the exact same story, technically.
Right. Ellie is far too
lucid.
Yeah, cognizant and similar to her alive state.
Right.
She's not necessarily feral like the cat.
Right. Right.
And you don't have I love it. You don't have the Timmy Baterman story as reference.
To set up what you're going to get. Again, another harbinger, another preview of what's going to happen.
Right.
A little warning ahead of time that you do not heed.
I mean, Timmy Baterman, they had to fry him in his house.
Oh, yeah.
He was so, non-human.
Yeah.
The eyes, man. Oh, god damn it.
Yeah, they are pointing in a slightly different direction.
Yeah. This one, it's like,
I don't know.
This one's wonky. The left one is like sunken.
Yeah.
They're not even. It's cross-eyed. I don't know what they did.
I don't know.
But it's outstanding.
Yeah, I don't know if they did a little prosthetic or post-manipulation. I don't know, but it's very effective.
I don't know if it's just the makeup.
Yeah.
But, whew, dog. That, when your two eyes are looking in two different directions, that's...
Yeah.
Now, would she be able... Would she say that?
She just seems far too aware.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm...
Yeah. Almost like far too conscious that she's an evil entity now.
Right. And I don't know, despite my excitement, I was quickly disappointed because...
Yeah.
Here I'm thinking, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking Timmy Baterman.
Yeah.
Or even Church was instantly... Not Church, Gage. Was instantly I need to start...
a monster.
Yeah, I need to start. The first thing he did was go for the scalpel and start cutting people.
Yeah.
She loves Daddy and is cuddling.
Yeah. Yeah, just with the Lewis thing and just again, there is something kind of missing. It's like, I just don't feel like he's kind of sunken down into like this like shut off emotional state where he just can't comprehend anything. That he can't just see that this is wrong.
Yeah, in some ways, he also feels too aware.
Yeah. It's not disconnected enough. You kind of need that disconnection from reality thing for the story to work at its best potential.
And here, I'm not afraid of Ellie. You know what I mean?
Not inherently, no.
I mean, okay, now she's being a little erratic.
Yeah.
But still, like, it's not... I don't know. Like, suddenly she's an adult.
Yeah.
20 miles to Derry. I like that.
Tourist traffic is very high.
Must be. Traffic jam because there's a clown on the road or something.
I just can't wait to start floating.
By the way, that's not I-95.
I'm sure it's not. I don't remember. I don't know where they shot this. It's clearly not Maine. No, shot in Canada.
Oh, well, there you go.
It's all in Quebec.
There's no Vancouver mountains and...
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I just... there's something missing.
Mm-hmm. Foreboding dread is what's missing. Because all the little things they've kind of cut out from what Jud, as in the story, gave you that sense, like, okay, this happened before. Don't go off and do it again, because it's going to turn out bad.
Yeah, he's almost like
There's
an annoying
not that
neighbor.
Here, yeah,
He's like, you kind of want him to just go away.
right. And he's talking about like the ground is bad. There's some Native American mysticism here, stuff like that, but he hasn't woven tales.
At least none that had any sort of impact.
Yeah,
If not impact on us, the audience, impact on Lewis.
right.
He walks funny.
Mm-hmm.
What's the pigeon toed is when they're pointed inward,
Oh,
but I forget what it's called when they're pointed outward.
hmm.
And that's what he has.
Okay.
He walks with his feet are cockeyed outward.
Yeah, I've seen that in a few people.
Unless that was an acting decision.
Hmm.
I don't like the weird yellow in his mustache and beard either. It just
Yeah.
looks like he's got mustard in there.
Yeah. Yeah, he doesn't have the Harrison Ford old man bad hips run, though.
And what is he paranoid about right now? Like Ellie? Does he think Ellie's there? He's got a gun, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, talking about the house, if it's supposed to be as old as he is, if not older, it's definitely not the style.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like mid-century architecture type of thing.
I mean, it looks lived in.
Yeah,
and
it did some distressing here and there. The antique wallpaper does something for you.
I mean, and it's full of stuff. And, gross old flower chairs and rotary phones. But there's something about that Victorian home.
Right. Yeah, it feels like this was might have been built in the 70s at the latest and just slapped some older wallpaper on it.
And they're trying. They do this thing where they
tease that.
They teased Gage in the road,
which is fine. I like that. I like that. You're at least setting up two different scenarios there, where she's out in the road grabbing church, so there's at least a danger there, just her approaching church,
right?
And then
I'm not
Gage
saying
in
they're
the road.
equal.
So I thought that worked very nicely, having the double setup. But yeah, but it's the fact that
So again, they teased it under the bed.
They teased it, swerved it, then executed it. So
it's like
it's too much, kind of like teasing on your knowledge of the original version of the film. So I'm not as hot on.
Me either. Like, had they not teased under the bed and just done it at the stairwell, that would have been great.
Right.
And now all of a sudden his wife is here.
Right.
And, like, what? This is completely unnecessary. Like, suddenly she's a speaker for all dead people?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's necessary.
I mean, and yeah, she kills him, okay.
Yeah.
Like, that's fine. But you're right. I mean, that whole, I have knowledge of the previous film, so we're going to trick you into thinking that...
Right.
And what is the point of tricking you into thinking that they're going to do the exact same spot?
Right.
Like, why even...
You earn nothing from it.
Right. Either you don't do it, which was the case here, in which case it's unnecessary, or you do it the same, in which case it's the same, and there's no point.
Yeah.
It's almost like the mom knows what's going on.
Yeah, I was thinking that. It's like, okay, there's no setup for that. Because she doesn't know anything about what the Sematary does. I'm sure she was a little, I don't know, little stuff with church probably threw on a weird track of things, but she has no idea whatsoever.
Right.
And they haven't played up. They really downgraded the Pascal stuff all over the place in this thing, like severely.
Yeah, it was unnecessary. Like, he didn't need to be in this version at all.
No, if you're not going to use them, don't bother using them at all.
I mean, what they did was they had Gage be, and that's even the same, because in the old one, Ellie had a dream or a vision or something.
Right. At least she could communicate more. Gage is 2 years old or something. I mean, he can't say anything
and
more.
he said Pascal better than Ellie in 89 said Pascal. So...
Yeah, just... Because Pascal works so well because... even Rachel's not really aware of Pascal, but it's at least getting into her subconscious what he's trying to convey to her.
Right.
And so that leads her towards a path to come back here and deal with all this stuff, and being aware that there's something darker and more sinister happening. In this one, it's like I don't really understand why she comes back. Gage has one little freak out, which again, it's a 2-year-old kid. They have that every 10 minutes.
Right.
So I'm not as convinced of why she comes back for this.
It would almost have been better if Jud called her.
Right.
You know.
Right. Because Jud really didn't alert her much to anything. It's like, okay, she tries to call Lewis. Lewis doesn't pick up. She calls Jud, and Jud doesn't really convey anything to her about being afraid of anything. You just like go on and check with him. So it's like she's not really panicked into doing anything.
And now all of a sudden they have this little fight. Yeah, I mean, when she calls him to check on him, if she'd have been at home,
right,
and he said, maybe you better get down here, or back up here,
say something,
you know, like that would have been okay.
Yeah. Did he have a growth spurt? He looks a lot taller now.
I don't know. Maybe they used twins, and the other twin was 2 inches taller at the time.
He's been taking some steroids.
HGH for toddlers. Is that legal? Probably not.
It's not legal for adults. I don't know. She's got a flashing a Kirk Cameron poster she's got in her own.
Debbie Gibson! Only in my dreams. And now she's wearing...
Well, it's definitely like 87 or so. God,
oh, yeah, now she's...
This is freaky, yeah, this is freaky.
And again, why is this happening?
Right. There's no direct trigger effect to it, because... I don't know. In the original story, it's she goes off to find Gage, and then that supernatural stuff starts screwing with her head. Linked to that, this doesn't seem like it's linked to anything that's happening in the rest of the film.
Yeah, I mean, if you take out the entire Zelda story from this version, you have the same movie.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Eh. I mean, the possibilities were endless of how they could have played this.
Yeah.
Good fall.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they've kind of... Granted, you know, zombie kids are scarier than zombie adults, but they've kind of had some of these more modern visual cues.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the coming out of the dumbwaiter
Yeah.
and the crawling across the floor.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
very like, you know, The Ring and The Grudge and that kind of element.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's got internal bleeding right now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, here we go. She gonna jump or is she gonna get thrown? You're skinny. I could fit.
You can get in under there.
I could fit through that doorway. Oh God. Oh God.
Oh.
The laugh, the
Laugh
giggle,
is
giggle.
nice.
Yeah, that's great.
The kid's got some tears, man. He can go.
Well, they just dropped him out of a window.
Like Michael Jackson. Oh God.
You let me die in the road? That's not fair.
No, she didn't. She didn't let her die. There's no sense of guilt to put on that. I mean, that's the only part that it has a resonance with the Zelda. So I was like, okay, she admits it right before she passes.
Which is not nearly as strong as her admitting it outwardly
Right.
to Lewis
Right. Mm-hmm.
and
Right.
relieving that guilt that she's
Right.
got pent up.
Right.
Oh God.
Ugh.
How does she know about it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. No.
I mean, I guess he said there's a place.
Yeah, but
He mentioned it casually.
yeah, but she's far more disconnected from all that stuff that's been going on.
And the 9-year-old is strong enough to drag the,
Yeah.
120-pound mom
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. Not to say that I'm a good gauge of weight.
Right, but also like carry her up the deadfall and,
Right.
and drag her off how many miles? Yeah.
Well, if that's the case, and I don't quite recall, if you're insinuating that Ellie is trying to take the mom up
Yeah.
to be the one to bury her, that doesn't make any sense either, because Ellie doesn't know about the place beyond.
Yeah.
Other than that's where she was reborn, quote
Right.
unquote. Like, it doesn't make any sense for Ellie, the one who killed Rachel,
Mm-hmm.
to then want to resurrect her.
Right.
Like, what? That's like the fat kid in 2, killing the stepdad,
Yeah.
and then saying, oh, well, now that all my problems are over, let's go resurrect him.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense. Oh, God. The stabbing. Stabbing to me would be so painful. Yeah, the kid is far too cognizant.
Yeah.
For my taste. I don't know why she would try to bring the mom up here.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
That fast motion.
Yeah.
What is happening here? Everything is so it doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
Now we get the overhead shot.
Mm-hmm.
This has become very famous or popular.
Yeah.
In the last 10 years or so. Poor Gage. They lock the kid in the car. It's probably hot. He can't breathe. And, I mean, I suppose, again, a difference would be they're all going to be a, zombie family unit.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a change.
Yeah. There's an alternate ending I was just reading up on. I didn't watch it before, but where Lewis, none of that stuff happens in the cemetery, I guess. Ellie drags off Rachel to be resurrected, but Lewis is still there in the house with Gage, kind of like completely out of it, like he's been just completely run through the ringer and everything, and then they come back. Two of them dead, two of them alive, and he's just kind of completely out of it, and it's like almost like a family portrait type of thing. And of course, they get someone to do a cover version of the Ramones song to complete the entire thing. I mean, it's not a bad cover, but yeah, just the
but why?
Intention is like, okay, you don't have to be so overt about everything.
I mean, they could just write a new song.
You don't even have to have a song. Just run score over the end credits. Because this film doesn't have that tone that worked with the Ramones song and everything, where it had a little kitsch to it, a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit something there. This one doesn't have that to kind of justify that kind of similar tone.
It had some lightheartedness, like Pascal.
Right.
And
had a quirk.
Right. Moments of Jud and
yeah.
So yeah, everything was all these French people. It had to be filmed in Montreal. I lost my train of thought. I don't know. Everything that the potential that was built during the swerve was lost because
didn't keep veering towards a different track. Kind of like we swerved over here, then we kind of took the bend back into the same place at the end.
Yeah.
We just kind of detoured around the original path.
And I think we've harped on it enough, but it really just comes down to Jud being
less of a cog in the story.
Yeah, he's just not even. Just less than. Everything's less than.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, if they had more Pascal in it, I think that would have added something more into just like the ambiance of the story. Because
yeah, I mean,
Pascal's supposed to be there as this sort of, again, this looming figure of like this guide to kind of avert you from the danger and everything like that.
The angel.
It would work in a similar fashion, not the same thing, but it would still give a certain forebodingness that it's like someone's still there warning you not to go that way, not to make that choice.
There wasn't a lot of warning
No.
in this one.
No.
From anybody.
No.
And, you know, like we were saying with the Elm Street thing, they tried so hard to just copy the same scenes. You know, like they did the bathtub scene for no reason.
The push through the wall thing.
Right. All because it was like, oh, that's
pre-established knowledge of the original.
And they did some of that here, you know, with the Achilles under the bed.
Sure.
And it was like, well, you can tell the story without being shot for shot.
Right.
And this one, significantly better than the Elm Street.
Oh, wide margins.
I mean, it's head and shoulder. I mean, not to say that this one's great and that I would watch it all the time, but I do understand.
They at least got on a good track in many different places. The Elm Street remake I can't say there was a right track on that one at all.
No, this one has enough qualities. It has a rewatchability to it that it might not be great, but it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm not as offended by this one as I am some other remakes.
Oh, yeah.
But, all right, well.
I'd probably put it below the Friday 13th remake. I'd say
me too.
The Friday one's is better.
Me too.
It's a better product altogether.
Probably the Chainsaw remake, too, is also...
Oh, yeah, definitely. I would definitely say that. We'll eventually get around to that one.
We've got another remake that we both think is way better that is maybe coming down the line, too.
Yeah, so...
All right.
So, guys, thanks so much, and we'll enjoy hearing what you thought about this one, because that's the end of these.
Yeah, good.
And for now.
For now, yeah.
You never know. I'm not going to tempt fate.
Go bury that disc in the dirt and see what happens.
Yeah, God damn it. All right, guys. Thanks much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.